working with actors and working with these different roles, maybe you could focus in on Clytemnestra, who's obviously very interesting and worthwhile to talk about, and just tell us something about what you drew upon, how you worked with that, those kinds of things, for that particular role.
In terms of in the production or in the writing process? Both. Well, I mean, I think I drew upon myself to quite a large degree.
So you're not a drunk.
No, I'm not a drunk. But I suppose I just kind of thought, what would it be like to be, she has a line which says, a double death I felt that day, or two deaths I felt that day, to have the person that you love most in the world do the absolute worst thing that you can imagine, and what that would do to your sort of spirit. Not only that, you've got to bloody run a country. I mean, I sort of can't imagine anything worse, really. And would you still be able to have your eye on the ball enough to look after your existing children, or so that, I mean, I think there are sort of some references from Shakespeare all the way through this a little bit with the herbs and whatever. So, you are partly kind of drawing on your own experience, partly drawing on the original, also drawing on other characters from other plays to kind of go, okay, that's how, Shakespeare achieved that with that character. What can I take from that feels useful here? I mean, Pauline herself is a terrific actress that I've worked with before. And when we were talking about, who would play Clytemnestra, I mean, I think that what you've seen, and one of my favourite moments in part one is the blah blah moment. I just think the fact that she's prepared to be that kind of bonkers and playful, and then in the next moment, bloody hell, she means it and she's going to kill him. I think the range that she's got just felt. Is the tannoy on? Are they all listening in the green room?
I'm sure they are.
But the range that she's got just felt that we could take it anywhere. And I think when we started to kind of see, with all the cast actually, what we had in the room, that we really could find those very high moments and very low moments, it was a treat, really.
And for me, I remember when I read the original, the first draft, the scene that absolutely grabbed me, and still I love, is the scene when Clytemnestra's been told the news, and she clears everyone else out, and she sits drunk, and her daughter comes on, and the ghost of her other daughter comes on, and she plucks away at the instruments as a saying, I'm here, it's time to do it, when I first read that, I just thought that's absolute genius, and I love that scene, but also what I loved about it was that it really helped create the world of the whole piece, that this sense of a world that had been sort of partying, because it had nothing else to do. The sort of 10 years of waiting, of drinking, of hiding, of a woman who was hiding behind the bottle, who knew she was going to have to do something but didn't want to do it, but also that the thing that I really love and I love in Zinnie's writing is a sort of naturalistic world that's also haunted as well, that you can have ghosts in, and for me I found that really thrilling and a real way into telling the story, so you have a sense of a world that begins sort of dissolute, that tidies itself up, and then goes on this journey to a bloodbath at the end. So that, I guess that's just one example way in which that writing really, as a director, for me, visually kind of opened up the whole world.
Thank you.
For me, the sound was like an extra character in the play. How early on in the production process did that come to the fore?
Sort of day one, really. I'm only really repeating what I've done before. If you've seen Hamlet, Crime and Punishment, Christmas Carol shows here, I work a lot with the guy who was at the piano, Nicola Kojabasho, who's a Macedonian composer, and I knew that I wanted that sound world as part of the show. So he was in rehearsals from day one, and he did what we always do, which is we go kind of, here are the actors, here's a bunch of instruments, let's create the sound world as we go along. And I guess for me I find it thrilling and exciting, and I suppose above all theatrical. I've said before that I don't like it when sound comes in kind of recorded in a kind of filmic way. For me, it really works when it's sort of part of the world and part of the kind of ensemble, part of the theatre making. So that's been a kind of exciting sort of journey as part of what as we make the piece. And one, we had a thrilling day once when we discovered that lump of polystyrene that's sitting up there on a drum. What a great noise it makes with a cello bow. So it's those kind of things that are part of the kind of process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you both for this amazing piece of work. I watched it last week as well, the full trilogy. It was really amazing. How long did it take you to write the full piece?
So I was working on part one. Actually, was finished about 2 years ago. So it's hard because actually what there is the sort of gestation of a play, and then the actual writing it down is the small end of it, really. So it has been. I've been thinking about it for 3 years, but this time last year, I hadn't yet written part two, and that was a problem. And I was thinking, God. And actually, part two. It's I can't really talk that much about it, but part two, the offering from part one. What you have in the original is sort of the Hamlet. There's so much story, there's so many things and whatever. And part two, it's a slightly thinner offering dramatically, and so I really had to do a thing. So thank God I wrote part two, and then I had to write part three, and so then having the same doubt, and for all kinds of reasons to do with other stuff, other things were going on when I should have been writing, which was last October, and so it just got later and later and later. And this was programmed by now. The days of the rehearsals are getting very near. And also it's really hard to write the last one in a trilogy, and particularly if you're pleased with part one and part two, it gets harder, oh my God, I'm going to muck it up with part three sort of thing. So I got into a bit of a knot.
The original is tricky.
So
part
that's
three,
right, yeah, that's the point. So in part three, in the original, Orestes is fleeing from the Furies. I think it doesn't spoil anything to tell you that. And it's all resolved by the goddess Athena, who brings in a jury and says, and sells the idea of a jury and justice to the people of Athens. And I sort of thought, well, I can't really sell the idea of a jury to the people of Glasgow. They probably are pretty signed up to democracy. So I felt that I had to do a similar, but I did feel that there had to be a similar kind of point to the whole idea. So that was kind of quite a hard thing to solve. So it took some time, but thank God, arrived in the right moment. Yeah.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
That's related to part three, actually. So I don't know how much I will intervene into what.
I'm not allowed to talk about part three.
You can ask me in the bar maybe after. Yeah.
About your inspiration, what inspired you to, in a sense, write part three in such a way compared to the original?
Well, I'll do that. I'll talk about that later. Because it's a surprise.
It's a
Isn't it?
surprise. It's fun. Yeah. Any other?
Yes, can I ask about the actors? Are
Uh-huh.
they using their own voices? Their natural voice, their accent?
Yes.
And-
Yeah. Rather than what?
Well, and a different kind of accent. I mean, how they talked in Greece.
Oh, right.
Not Greek, obviously.
Well,
but
yeah,
you know.
exactly. So in Greece they talked in Greek. So yeah, they're just they're just using their own accents because they're just people, really.
And we wanted a Scottish cast.
Yeah,
didn't
we wanted a Scottish cast, and also I'm sort of averse to kings and queens and that kind of idea. We wanted them just to be people. And there's also something I think quite interesting about, and maybe it sort of ties into why we've set it in the way that we've set it. That I mean, in a way, it's irrelevant. But the original leaders of in ancient Greece would have been kind of warlords, or they've got where they got because they fought battles and things like that. And you know, when we were thinking about how to set this, it's tricky if you're doing it contemporary because you need to find a world that is can kind of include the supernatural, can include religion, and I and the designer, we were looking at things, you know, we looked at the Balkans, we looked at Greece now, we looked at, but those sort of Balkan countries, and I'd remembered a time years ago when travelling through that area where you could come across small towns or large towns, and they could be on one level quite Christian, but also there might be somebody selling plants or heather or something on the street who might curse you if you didn't buy them. So there was a sort of folklore. It also needed to have a kind of folkloric kind of sense to it, that there was a sort of history that was beyond organised religion. So that sort of seemed to work, that kind of, well, I suppose almost a bit like modern day Greece.
And the churches.
And then we were thinking about people like those sort of slightly trashy dictators, Eastern European dictators, or Ceausescu and those kind of people who'd come to power through their own might, as it were, rather than inherited anything. And actually, the space is based on a picture of a communist meeting, rally, actually. So sort of almost like a sort of community hall in which those sort of things were happening. So
You said you saw a photo with a fur coat.
that's right. There's a fantastic photo of sort of horrendous pictures of actually Ceausescu's trial, which took place in a tiny room around plastic tables. And actually, it's on YouTube. And she's in a fur coat, and he's sitting there just in a suit, and it's just so sort of drab and 70s looking, and that felt like a good world for this. Probably couple more questions.
You, sorry.
Yeah, I just wondered, because you said it's very beautiful to think of putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and you know, that must give you great ideas. And what it felt like to put yourself in the shoes of the characters that perhaps are sort of in their fantasy land and are not very likeable. I was wondering how tiring it is when you're writing, because you seem to get into the minds of everyone. How do you do that? You know, I'm going mad. I just wondered.
Well, I do go mad. Yeah, I go bonkers. And I talk out loud while I write. It drives my family crazy. And I mean, you know, I think what you try to do with the unsympathetic characters is find what it is that stops them being kind of two-dimensional, or what it is that, you know, everybody, it feels to me that there is a fight in everybody, and that what you're trying to do when you dramatise people is kind of give us that fight. So, you know, even Agamemnon, or not even Agamemnon, you know, he believes he didn't want to do it. He did it, but he is absolutely drenched in kind of remorse and sorrow when he comes back, you know, and the fact that he's been sleeping with Cassandra isn't part of it as far as he's concerned. He's this guy that, you know, and I think you just find the belief that they have in themselves, and you know, and I think also what you're seeing is you know, a polished draft that you go through various stages when you write a play. So, you know, quite often you have a scene or an act where you've kind of got one story right, and you think, yeah, I've got Clytemnestra in place, but actually, you know, I haven't really got these other people kind of working yet, you know, and then you have to kind of go back and you sort of do a pass where you just kind of look at Agamemnon and kind of go, okay, but what's he up to at this moment, and what does that feel like? And so then you know, you put on his boots and you write it from his point of view. So yeah.
I was just thinking, I actually saw this play in 1982 on VHS. There was set in the Acropolis, done as a form of the Greek tragedy, you know, as we would know it. And I remember it being extremely turgid and full of hysteria. But what came across very much was this kind of multi mentality you're talking about that I feel is completely turned into a 360 degree, and you know,
I think it's hard, but I think there's something about this theatre, and maybe that's about Glasgow as well. That's about going. We want to present these stories in a way that is accessible and is about the people who live in this city. And I think the Sits has always been sort of about that. So it does feel, this feels to me like a Sits show rather than like a Lyceum show. And I think that's something about it being a little bit more kind of in your face, a little bit more visceral and front foot, I guess. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah. Maybe that's right.
If you give the chorus their own show.
What?
If you give the chorus their own show.
Yeah.
There's
One more
Sure, yes.
question.
Just a very short question, really, is to say congratulations about the chorus, because I did see the Lyceum show that does without the chorus, and I think the chorus was just a genius way of doing it. But I wondered what inspired you to retain the chorus, because it's quite a old form, but it fits in so well.
I never thought actually that it didn't occur to me to lose the chorus. I sort of feel like, if you're doing Aeschylus, then the challenge is to work with a chorus, that and to deliver a modern chorus or to deliver a chorus that has kind of dramatic purpose is the thing. So I suppose that's what I meant about Iphigenia, that I didn't, obviously they do sit and narrate, but I did want them to also have a role in the story, and actually as we go through you'll see that even more, but at the first moment they are just the poor buggers who watch the Ghost every night, and that's what they do, and they sit around and drink, and they're the people that the Queen would like to be part of, and they're the people that have to carry the cloths, and that actually you just kind of have to keep kind of going, okay, well what can they be doing at these moments, so they're not just standing on the edge. And I think there's a lovely offering from Aeschylus actually about, there are these old men that have been left behind, all the able-bodied men have gone off to war, we're left in a town of women and the kind of decrepit in some ways, and so there's fun to be had with that, which I felt I wanted to play with.
We had to stop because we had to hand the stage back to the actors and
Yeah.
stage management. But thank you very much.